Let me start by telling you something you may not want to hear. Keto is not the solution, not for sugar cravings, not for long-term metabolic health, not for muscle building, and certainly not for sustainability. People talk about keto as if it were a religion, a miracle, a universal cure. But the truth is much simpler. The hunger you battle every day cannot be cured by another version of hunger. Restriction does not heal cravings. Starvation and cutting out entire categories of food rarely solves the deeper biochemical problem driving your appetite. You do not struggle with cravings because you lack discipline. You struggle because your brain has been taught to beg for sugar. You do not feel weak after meals because you are flawed. You feel weak because your biology is being manipulated. You do not fail diets because you are lazy. You fail because your hormones have been hijacked. And keto does not fix that hijacking. In many cases, it makes it worse. The real issue is not carbs. The real issue is not fat. The real issue is the chemical loop between sugar and dopamine. Let me explain what is actually happening inside your brain. Every time you eat something sweet, especially something processed, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter associated with reward, motivation, and reinforcement. It makes you feel good. It makes you want more. But here's the catch. Dopamine does not create satisfaction. It creates pursuit. It creates desire. It creates craving. Sugar gives you a short burst of pleasure, but leaves your brain wanting another hit. And the more hits you chase, the faster your receptors desensitize. You need more sugar to feel the same small effect. This is the cycle of addiction, and millions of people live inside it without realizing it. For decades, I have treated patients who believed they were battling willpower, when what they were really battling was biochemistry. Their brains were begging for sugar because sugar had rewired the reward system. Their cravings were not psychological failures. They were neurological responses. And the worst part is that modern processed food is specifically engineered. Cycle stronger. Companies design products with the exact ratio of sugar, texture, and flavor to stimulate maximum dopamine release. They create addictions intentionally. That is why you cannot stop at one cookie. That is why you crave dessert even when you are full. That is why you feel weak half an hour after eating. Your reward system has been overstimulated and your satiety system has been silenced. Now, here is where keto fails. Keto removes sugar, yes, but it does not repair dopamine. It does not restore satiety, and because it is so restrictive, many people end up craving sugar more strongly than before. Keto can suppress cravings temporarily by forcing the body into ketosis. But the moment you eat carbohydrates again, the dopamine surge comes back with even more intensity. You feel out of control, you rebound, you binge. You blame yourself and the cycle repeats. What you need is not deprivation. You need a food that shuts down sugar cravings at their source. You need a food that feeds your muscles, stabilizes your hormones, increases satiety, and rewires your reward pathways. You need a food that does not trigger dopamine, but triggers satiety. You need a food that tells your brain you are satisfied, you are nourished, you can relax, and that food is not exotic. It is not expensive. In that food, the food that kills sugar cravings is the combination of three things the human body has relied on for thousands of years: protein that digests slowly, fiber. When you combine these three elements, in a single meal, something extraordinary happens. Your sugar cravings begin to disappear, not because you are resisting them, but because your brain no longer asks for them. Let me walk you through what happens when you eat a meal built from protein, fiber, and natural fats. First, the protein activates your satiety hormones, leptin, cholecystokinin, peptide IY. These hormones tell your brain you are fed, you are satisfied, and you do not need more food. Second, the fiber slows digestion, stabilizes your blood sugar, and feeds the microbiome that regulates your appetite. Third, the natural fats prolong satiety and help your body absorb fat-soluble vitamins that support metabolic health. When these three components are present in a meal, your hunger switches from reward-based to biologically based. You no longer eat because your dopamine demands it. You eat because your body truly needs nourishment. Most people have not felt true satiety in years. They only know reward. They eat, then crash into cravings. But when you eat a meal based on protein, fiber, you experience a different kind of fullness. It is calm, it is stable, and it shuts down cravings because it satisfies the part of your brain that keto leaves untouched, the satiety center. Let me give you an example. When one of my patients, a 60-year-old man with intense sugar cravings, replaced his breakfast of cereal and fruit juice with a simple meal of eggs, sautéed vegetables, and avocado, his life changed within 5 days. His cravings dropped by, his energy stabilized, his afternoon fatigue vanished, his blood sugar improved, and he found himself naturally eating less without trying. Not because he was restricting himself, but because his body was finally receiving the signals it needed. The same thing happened with a 58-year-old woman who had tried every diet imaginable. She replaced her evening snack of cookies and tea with a dinner based around salmon, leafy greens, and olive oil. Within 1 week, she reported that she walked past her pantry without feeling pulled by sugar. The cravings she thought were part of her personality were actually symptoms of biochemical imbalance. Once she corrected the imbalance, her craving-driven eating began to disappear. These changes are not magic, they are physiology. Your brain cannot crave sugar when your satiety hormones are active. Your muscles cannot weaken when they are being fed high-quality protein. Your metabolism cannot crash when your meals contain natural fats that stabilize your hormones. This is why keto fails. It does not activate satiety. It only removes sugar. And removal without replacement is not a long-term strategy. It is a temporary illusion. This is why I tell my patients to forget keto and focus instead on eating real food built around protein, fiber, and natural fats. And the key to making this work is not theory. You need meals that are designed to silence cravings, not meals that depend on discipline. Let me show you how this works in practice, because understanding the theory is not enough. You need to know what these meals look like, how they feel, and what they do to your body in real time. When you build a meal with slow protein, fiber, and natural fats, you begin shutting down the dopamine-driven hunger loop, waking up the satiety system that has been silent for years. Imagine starting your morning with a meal centered around protein instead of sugar, eggs cooked in olive oil, or a piece of leftover chicken paired with a handful of vegetables that give you fiber, and maybe half an avocado for natural fat. Within 20 minutes, your satiety hormones begin firing. Your brain receives a calm, steady signal that you are nourished, and something remarkable happens. The part of your brain that demands sweetness quiets down. You do not think about sugar. You do not crave sugar. You do not fight cravings. They simply fade, not because you forced anything, But because your biology finally feels supported, by mid-morning, instead of crashing into hunger or irritability, your energy remains stable. Your mental clarity is stronger. Your mood feels balanced. You notice that you are not looking for snacks. This is because your dopamine is no longer being yanked up and down by sugar spikes. Your brain begins operating on satiety rather than reward. This is how cravings die, not through force, but through rebalancing. Now, imagine your lunch. Instead of something processed or quick, you eat a meal that actually feeds your body. Maybe salmon with greens, nuts, and a drizzle of olive oil. Maybe grilled chicken with roasted vegetables. Maybe a large salad with leafy greens, lentils, and feta cheese. You finish your meal and you are not desperate for dessert. You are not looking for something sweet. You feel full, calm, and steady. The protein feeds your muscles. The fiber slows digestion. The natural fat extends your satiety for hours. Your insulin stays low. Your hunger becomes predictable and quiet. You do not spend the next 3 hours thinking about food. By the afternoon, most people are shocked at how different they feel. They report a new type of mental clarity, a kind of steady, grounded focus they forgot was possible. Their mood feels more level. Their energy no longer dips. Their brain is not sending them signals to look for sugar. They begin to realize that the cravings that once ruled their life were not psychological weaknesses. They were signals from an overstimulated reward system. Dinner completes the cycle, a plate with protein, fiber, and natural fats. Chicken thighs with vegetables cooked in olive oil, ground turkey with peppers and onions, sardines with a side of greens and walnuts, pork loin with roasted broccoli. These meals are simple, they are affordable, they are easy to prepare, and they shut down cravings. They activate the satiety center. They turn off the biochemical signal that keeps you reaching for sugar. People often ask me how long it takes for cravings to disappear. The answer is usually 5 days. 5 days of feeding your satiety system correctly, 5 days of breaking the dopamine cycle, 5 days of stabilizing your blood sugar, 5 days of letting your metabolism breathe, 5 days of giving your brain the nourishment it has been missing. Not 5 weeks, not 5 months. And the reason it works is simple. The brain does not crave sugar. It craves sugar when it is undernourished, overstimulated, and exhausted. Cravings are not a sign of weak willpower. They are a sign that your biology is out of balance. When you restore balance, cravings. Now let's talk about muscle, because many people assume that sugar cravings and muscle building have nothing to do with each other, but they do. Protein is the foundation of muscle development. Without enough protein, your muscles cannot repair, grow, or stay strong. And when your cravings are out of control, you tend to eat foods that offer no benefit for muscle health. Processed foods, sweets, pastries, sugary drinks, and snacks contribute nothing to muscle repair. They steal your energy, destabilize your blood sugar, and make you feel weak. But when you build your meals around protein, everything changes. Your muscles finally receive the amino acids they need. Your metabolism begins operating more efficiently. Your strength improves. You feel more stable when you move. You feel more confident in your body. And because your protein intake is now higher, your cravings naturally weaken. Protein is the nutritional backbone of satiety. When you increase protein, your brain stops begging for sugar. Fiber completes the picture. Fiber feeds the microbiome, the colony of bacteria in your gut that controls much of your appetite, mood, and metabolism. A healthy microbiome reduces inflammation, stabilizes blood sugar, and sends signals to your brain that regulate hunger. When you lack fiber, your microbiome, that imbalance contributes to cravings and unstable appetite. But when you eat vegetables, legumes, nuts, and seeds regularly, your microbiome thrives. And when your microbiome thrives, your hunger becomes more accurate and far easier to control. Natural fats are the final piece. Fats like olive oil, avocado, cheese, nuts, and fatty fish slow digestion, extend satiety, and help you absorb the nutrients that regulate your hormones. They do not spike insulin. They do not stimulate dopamine the way sugar does. They do not create cravings. They calm the metabolism instead of overwhelming it. Fats give your body the stability that sugar destroys. When you combine protein, fiber, and natural fats in each meal, you create a metabolic environment where cravings cannot survive. You create a hormonal environment where satiety dominates reward. You create a digestive environment where blood sugar remains stable, and you create a physical environment where your muscles can grow and your energy can thrive. But there is one warning I have to give you. Do not use artificial sweeteners. Do not use diet, soda, sugar-free snacks, low-calorie sweetened products, or anything labeled zero sugar, artificially flavored. Artificial sweeteners trick your brain into expecting sugar, and when your brain does not receive it, your cravings increase. They maintain the dopamine loop. They keep your reward system overstimulated, and they sabotage your progress. If you want your cravings to die, you must remove not only sugar, but also the illusion of sugar. Artificial sweeteners are one of the great traps of modern dieting. People reach for them thinking they are being careful, thinking they are avoiding calories, thinking they are protecting themselves from sugar. But the brain does not understand calories, it understands signals. Taste is a signal. Sweetness is a promise. When you give your brain sweetness without the nutrients that normally accompany it, you create confusion. The brain waits for the glucose that never arrives. It increases hunger. It amplifies cravings. It stimulates reward circuits. Your metabolism becomes restless instead of calm, and your progress collapses. And this is why so many people feel stuck. Even when they cut sugar, they replaced sugar with sweetness, and sweetness itself is the problem. Now, let me return to what matters most. The question everyone asks, what does this look like in real life? How do I silence cravings and build muscle without turning my life into a diet cult? The answer is simple. You feed your biology, not your addiction. You feed your satiety system, not your reward system. You feed your muscles, not your cravings. You feed the body you want, not the body the food industry conditioned you to have. Let me show you what a 7-day structure looks like. Not a diet, not a program, not a list of restrictions, a pattern, a rhythm your body can rely on, a way of eating that lowers cravings, builds muscle, and stabilizes your energy. Imagine waking up each morning and knowing exactly how to feed your body. Breakfast is protein, fiber, and natural fats. Eggs with spinach, Greek yogurt with nuts and seeds, cottage cheese with blueberries, leftover chicken with vegetables. You eat until you feel satisfied, not stuffed, not stimulated. You walk away from the table without thinking about sugar. Your brain stays quiet. Your dopamine stays stable. Your energy rises gently. You move through the morning feeling strong. Lunch follows the same pattern, maybe salmon with greens and olive oil, maybe lentil soup with vegetables, maybe chicken thighs with roasted carrots, maybe a large salad with beans, eggs, nuts, and avocado. You finish your meal and feel steady. No crash, no dip, no craving for dessert. Your satiety hormones take over. Your hunger becomes peaceful. You move through the afternoon with clarity. Dinner closes the day with another meal built around protein and fiber, maybe pork loin with broccoli, maybe shrimp with cabbage and sesame, maybe ground turkey with peppers, maybe sardines with walnuts and kale. These meals are not complicated. They are not expensive. They are not exotic. They are food, real food, the kind your body recognizes, the kind that makes your appetite predictable, the kind that kills cravings because it actually nourishes you. By day 3, most people notice the shift. They walk past sugar without feeling pulled. They stop thinking about dessert. They do not reach for snacks. They do not feel the evening crash that used to define their nights. Their belly feels different. Their mind feels clearer. Their hunger feels more like a whisper than a scream. Their body feels lighter. Their mood feels steadier. And this happens not because they are resisting cravings, but because the cravings, by day 5, something even more powerful happens. Their muscles begin feeling stronger. Their energy during movement improves. They feel more stable when they stand, walk, or carry things. Protein finally begins doing what it is supposed to do. It repairs, it strengthens, it rebuilds. Their metabolism feels less chaotic. Their digestion feels calmer. Their sleep improves. They wake up in the morning feeling rested instead of drained. By the end of the week, most people tell me the same thing. They feel like someone lifted a weight off their brain. They feel free. They feel in control. They feel like themselves again. They no longer feel trapped inside a body that demands sugar. Every few hours, they no longer feel defined by cravings. They no longer feel weak, guilty, or overwhelmed. They feel empowered. They feel nourished. They feel stronger. This is why I tell people to forget keto. Keto removes sugar, but does not rebuild satiety. Keto manipulates hormones, but does not restore balance. Keto works until the moment it doesn't, and then everything rebounds. People gain back the weight they lost. Their cravings return, their energy collapses, their metabolism becomes unpredictable, and they end up feeling defeated. Real food does not do that. Real food heals. Real food calms. Real food nourishes. Real food gives your brain the signals it needs to stop begging for sweets. Real food rebuilds muscle. Real food stabilizes hormones. Real food restores metabolic balance. Real food brings you back to yourself. So let me close with the simplest instruction you will ever hear from me. For the next 5 days, remove sugar, remove artificial sweeteners, remove processed foods, and build every meal around protein, fiber, and natural fats. Do this without cheat days, without exceptions, without negotiation. Give your body 5 days of real nourishment, 5 days of satiety, 5 days of calm hormones, 5 days of metabolic clarity. And I promise you this, you will come back. Because once you feel the difference, once your cravings, once your muscles feel stronger, once your energy feels steady, you will not want to go back to the chaos. Try it for 5 days and then look at yourself in the mirror. Look at your skin, look at your posture, look at your belly, look at your appetite. You will see exactly why diets fail and why this works. You do not need a diet. You need nourishment. You do not need keto. You need balance. You do not need restriction. You need real food. Your cravings are not your identity. They are a chemical signal. And once you silence that signal, you discover who you really are beneath it. Give your body 5 days. It will thank you louder than any sugar ever has.